Welcome to 2B of our ELA Spring Webinar Series for grades 3 through 5. This is the final recording in a series of 4 for ELA grades 3 through 5. In parts 1A and 1B, we looked at some of the sample release items in the assessment specifications documents. Part 2A focuses on narrative writing instruction and the narrative TDW item. This session focuses on argumentative writing instruction and the 5th grade argumentative writing item. While we are using the 6th grade TDW sampler that is located on our Assessment Quick Links webpage, our focus today will be on 5th grade argumentative writing. We have adapted the 6th grade sample release item to fit the 5th grade writing indicators. For questions about the TDW scoring rubrics, please watch our video transitioning from TDA to TDW. We are not teaching a test item. This is where we ended up with the text-dependent analysis item. The TDW item and scoring rubrics are tightly aligned with our grade level writing indicators. We did this intentionally to allow teachers to focus on writing instruction and not a test item. Consider this: if we only teach writing as practice for a test item, we send the message to students that writing is only valuable for a test item. It is important that we teach all 3 types of writing. If 5th grade teachers only teach argumentative writing because of the TDW item, 2 things could happen. Students won't be prepared for 7th grade informational writing, which increases the workload of the 6th and 7th grade teachers. The lack of additional writing instruction could also impact students' SC Ready scores because all modes of writing are assessed on SC Ready through the standalone items. This could in turn impact the school's data. Now let's turn to argumentative writing. Argumentative writing begins with a topic and sources of information. SC Ready will include only text sources. However, classroom instruction can incorporate other media sources. Not all argumentative writing requires students to research a topic. Sometimes teachers will provide the topic and the sources of information. Some argumentative writing should begin with guided research. In this case, teachers should incorporate these grade level indicators: Research 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4, and 1.5. This sample item was tested in 6th grade. It can be easily adapted for 5th grade until a 5th grade TDW item is released in the 2025-26 school year. Here is the 5th grade adapted version of the 6th grade task. We have removed the sentence that directs students to acknowledge an alternative perspective on the topic. This expectation does not enter argumentative writing until 6th grade. The argumentative TDW tasks will ask students a question and to choose a side or position. The student's direct response to this question is his or her claim. For this topic, students should take a position on whether the Netherlands should reclaim land from the sea. A claim cannot be a yes or no answer. A claim is not just an expression of a student's opinion on the topic. A claim must be able to be supported by facts and reasons for 5th grade, and it must be debatable. It is important to note that unlike the TDA prompts, there is no set format to the TDW tasks. While all argumentative tasks ask the student to take a position or side and persuade the readers of his or her perspective, not all tasks will be formatted exactly like this one. If instruction focuses on the argumentative writing process as outlined in the grade level indicators, Students will be prepared for the TDW task regardless of its presentation. The task presented here asks students to make a claim on the provided issue. This aligns with C 1.1a. Let's take a look at a sample of a strong claim. Please remember that this is the work of a student writer. This student's response received 3 of 4 points on the TDW item. The student uses the first person point of view by stating, "I know that." The TDW task asks students to state their position, which implies first person point of view. Remember, this is the first year students in 5th grade are writing claims instead of opinion statements. This means that 5th grade students will need explicit instruction about claims. Students use the first person to write opinion statements. For the TDW item, the student may use first person or third person. There is no penalty for either. Classroom instruction, however, is dependent on the expectations of the writing assignment. Not all writing assignments are the same. Let's look at a weak claim. This student received a TDW score of 1 of 4 points. You can view the full response and scoring justification in the TDW sampler. In the task, the student is asked to take a position on the topic and make a claim. This student takes the position that the Netherlands should be polderland so more people can live there. The student's claim is unclear because the writer does not clarify how the polderland is created or why it would give the country more living space. As a result of the weak claim, the rest of the student's response is disorganized and confusing to the reader. Teaching claim is essential. All argument writing should begin with teaching students how to write a claim. 5th grade is the first year students are expected to write a claim. They are moving from opinion writing in previous grades. There should be a lot of instruction that focuses on claim before moving into argument writing. Refer to your HQIM for support. Make sure that your instruction uses the same vocabulary as our ELA standards. How do we know if a student understands claim? This is where teachers can use a quick formative assessment to determine which students know what and which students will need additional instruction. Reading and recognizing claims, reasons, and evidence must happen before students are expected to write arguments. This slide provides one example of a quick formative way to determine a student's understanding. Ask the student to annotate a short argument showing the claim and how the claim is supported throughout the written work. Then ask the student to do the same with his or her written work. Have the student explain the differences between the two works. Ask the student what he or she could change in his or her work to make a stronger claim. If your formative assessment reveals that you have students who need additional support, use explicit instruction to demonstrate writing a strong claim. This slide provides you with one idea of how this can be done. As you model writing the claim, explain to the student what you are doing and why. Have the student write what you write and annotate what you are saying about your process. Allow the student time to ask clarifying questions. Once the student understands what a claim is and the process of writing one, provide him or her with several different claims, some that are strong and some that are weak. Ask the student to evaluate each claim and explain why it is strong or weak. For the weak claims, ask students to rewrite it to make it better. Mentor texts are invaluable. Once the student can write a clear, defensible claim, he or she will move on to carrying the claim throughout the written work. Provide the student with a multi-paragraph argument. Ask the student to first highlight or mark the claim, and then highlight or mark how the writer carries the claim throughout the text. What's next? Once the student can outline another writer's argument and can write a clear, defensible claim, the student is ready to write a full argument. Again, these are just some ideas. Your HQIM may have additional ideas and supports. Returning to the student response, let's look at the introduction. In the introduction, the student states that it is not a good idea to reclaim the land because it is expensive. We are only going to focus on that one reason for today's work. Students who effectively organize written responses will carry their ideas from the claim throughout the rest of the response. A weak or unclear claim can negatively affect organization. In this student's response, you notice the first body paragraph begins with the issue of expense. Speaking of organization, the organization of an argument, whether it be for the TDW item or another written argument, is not based on a required number of paragraphs or sentences within a paragraph. It is about how the writer presents his or her argument in a way that the reader finds to be logical and in a way that smoothly guides the reader through the written work. How a response is structured plays an important role in this. For example, if you are writing an argument and want to compare and contrast two ideas, using a chronological structure will not work, and it will make the response more difficult for the reader to follow. Transitional words and phrases also play an important part of the structure and organization of the written work. Using the wrong transitions to clarify ideas or illustrate relationships will make the response more difficult for the reader to follow. Returning to the student response, this student stays focused on proving his position that the Dutch should not reclaim polderland because it is expensive. This aligns with Communication 1.1a. In blue, you will notice paraphrasing of the text that is used as evidence to support the student's reason that reclaiming the land is extremely expensive. In green, you will notice a direct quote that supports the reason. This aligns with Indicator 1.1b. In orange, you will see how the student uses transitional strategies to organize the response. The words and phrases this student uses are well placed, show the relationships between the claim, reasons, and evidence, advance the argument, and work to organize the information. They also make it easier for the reader to follow the argument. Lastly, the structure is appropriate to the purpose and task. This is addressed in Communication 1.1d in 5th grade. You should also notice that this is not a formulaic response. There is not a set pattern being used by the student to structure and organize his response. The structure and organization are driven by the claim. While some formulas work for some students and some modes of writing, not all formulas work for all students and all modes of writing. With the TDA item, we saw a lot of students who had been taught a writing formula, but not the writing process. Again, we urge you to focus on teaching the writing process and allowing students the opportunity to receive feedback and apply that feedback through revising and editing. The more students write, the better writers they will become. Providing students with a list of transitional words and phrases does not teach students how to apply transitional words and phrases to their writing. Some students may need explicit instruction to understand what transitions are and how they work. The teacher may want to provide 1 to 3 sentences on the same topic and ask the student to determine which transitions could be used to link together the sentences. The teacher could then ask the student to explain how his or her choice of transitions function within that small piece of text. If the student cannot explain that however shows a contrast in ideas, or that because provides a reason or shows a relationship, then he or she may not understand how transitions function. Again, this is why handing out a list of transitional words and phrases doesn't work for all students. Argumentative writing is a process. Students must have time to practice writing arguments and have ample opportunity to revise arguments. Teach to the grade level writing indicators and not to the TDW rubric. If a student can write a strong claim and argument, he or she can apply those skills to any argumentative writing task, including the TDW item. Also, as a reminder, students in 5th and 6th grades should also have opportunities to write informational texts. Failure to provide these opportunities will affect student writers in 7th grade and add additional work to 7th grade teachers. SC Ready will assess all modes of writing, including narrative, through standalone writing items. The TDW is only one item on the test. Teach the writing indicators for your grade level. Teach all 3 modes of writing. Teach writing as a process, not as a test item. If students are writing, receiving feedback, and revising, they will be prepared for writing and for the TDW item. Provide students with a variety of written products. Consider what students will mostly write in everyday life. Allow for a variety of formal and informal writing. This concludes our 4-part spring webinar series for ELA grades 3 through 5. Thank you for watching this recording.